Hey there. Thank you so much for making the time to watch this replay. Today, I wanted to jump in and share with you some of the key lessons I learned from my recent experience giving a keynote address, even if you're not interested in getting on stage yourself. Because what I want to share with you is how I got the keynote opportunity, why I jumped on the chance to do it, even though it was to an audience that I don't normally speak to, and whether I would do that again, and what it took to win over that audience. So whether you're interested in speaking from a stage or whatever stage where you show up for your audience, that could be Facebook Live, that could be pre-recorded videos, it could even be in writing, in email, and your other content, then learn from my key lessons and take that away and start applying that today. That's what I want to jump in and cover for you on this live video. Now, for those of you who don't know me or don't know me well, my name is Carrie Price. I'm a brand messaging coach, helping ambitious service-based business owners find and own the words to stand out, be heard, and make your message roar. Hey, Sarah, so great to see you. Thank you so much for joining me live today. Now, I'm going to be really honest with you guys. The keynote address, at the time that I'm recording this video, the keynote address was a week ago. It feels like it was a lot longer ago than that. It was on the tail end of about 3 weeks of travel and conferences and all kinds of things. So I'm just now, a week later, starting to feel like I'm rested up, settling back in, and getting ready to put together the next bit of training and videos and content that I've got lined up for you. I have so much to share with you guys from the things that I've been doing over the last 3 weeks. But before I did that, I wanted to start by sharing with you some of the lessons that I learned from giving this keynote address last week, because I really think, one, it was a really good exercise for me to mix things up and speak to a different audience. I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit again about why I chose to do that and what it took to be successful to do that. But it reminded me probably some of the struggles that you're going through as you're trying to really hone in on your own message. And the key takeaways that I have from it, I think you can apply to all parts of your business where you are sharing your message. It doesn't have to be a physical stage. Truly, Facebook Live is a great way, or recorded videos are a great way for you to speak to larger audiences and let them see you and get to know you. Like, there's so much benefit from that. If you can't get to people in person, you surely can get to them online, right? Such a great time to be in business when we have this opportunity to get exposure to a lot of people, regardless of your geography. Okay. So as I mentioned, I want to share with you how I got this keynote opportunity and why I jumped on the chance to do it, even though it's not my normal target audience, and whether I would do that again, and then what it took for me to be successful giving that address and win over the audience, because thankfully the feedback I've gotten has been really amazing, but it took a lot of work to make that happen. It's really important work though, and it's stuff that you can do to have the same kind of experience with your audience. So how did I get this opportunity? Well, this one could say like the last event that led to it was the thing, right? But let me backpedal a little bit for you, because really there were a lot of things that led up to me having this opportunity. But if I were to simplify and streamline it for you, what it really came down to is I took the time in the beginning of my business. Now, I think I've shared this before. In my dream world, everybody works on their message before they launch. It's so important to like show up with that solid message and know who you're talking to. And I know not everybody does that. It's okay. It's not too late for you. You can do it at any time. But I really did take the time to develop my messaging foundation in the beginning, so that I knew that everything that I would put out there, every opportunity I had to show up, it would be well formed. It would give me the framework for everything that I want to communicate when given the opportunity. and I could then easily adapt from there, which is what I help people do, right? I help you build your messaging foundation. From that, I created a couple signature talks. So what does that mean? Well, I looked at all of the different aspects of messaging and what I want to be known for as a messaging coach that shows up and helps you make your message roar. And I created a couple, I'm going to call them standard talks, although I've never given the exact same talk twice. I'm going to talk more about that here in a moment. But I have a couple topics that are generally my go-to topics for opportunities when I want to speak. I started testing out those talks, doing guest expert lives in other people's Facebook groups. And that helped me really fine tune and hone these talks, making sure they were appealing to the audiences, seeing what kind of questions people had so that I can fine tune and make sure that I addressed them. And I gave them over and over again. In the first year and a half of my business, I did looked for a lot more opportunities to guest talk or do guest Facebook Lives in other people's Facebook groups. And it was a great opportunity for me to really fine tune and hone in on what my couple's signature talks or signature topics would be. So from there, I then started looking for and getting opportunities to speak in person. I started with some local events that were happening here in my own town. I would travel. I think the farthest I've traveled so far is to the other side of Missouri. I'm in Texas, for an opportunity to speak at an event there. That was almost 2 years ago. But I continued to look for opportunities to get out of my comfort zone, get in front of people, and share these signature talks. Well, one of the talks I gave last year, so a year ago, March, at a local women's conference here. And one of the organizers of this conference is also on the board of a nonprofit organization that puts on this larger conference, to which I was invited to speak. So when they first approached me, they said, "Oh, we love the talk you gave at the conference here in town last year. And as soon as we heard you speak, we knew you'd be like a really valuable addition for our conference that I just spoke at last week." It was for the Texas Education Foundation Network. And so it's an organization that supports education foundations, which are nonprofits that raise money for their local school district across the state of Texas. Now, if you guys have followed me for any length of time, or even if you've heard me introduce myself at the beginning of this video, I typically work with my focus, my niche, who I show up for to serve. I typically work with service-based business owners, predominantly online. So this was not a group of people that I normally spoke to, but I'm gonna talk to you in a moment about why I chose to do that. But the key thing I want you to take away from how I got this opportunity is get really clear on your message. If you don't have that, drop me a message or direct message me, because I want to help you have that. That's pertinent. If you don't have a clear message for how you show up and what you're the expert in, these opportunities are going to be really hard to come by. Develop your signature topics or signature talks, which comes from your message. When you have the messaging foundation, everything comes from that. And then look for opportunities to share that. Maybe it's starting out online and doing your own Facebook Lives, guest experting, being a guest expert in other people's groups or on their pages or getting interviewed, opportunities to share your message. And then look for opportunities to share that out in person. You never know who is in the audience. I had no idea the connections of people that were organizing my local event and that could springboard into something bigger. Now, when I agreed to speak to the Texas Education Foundation Network's conference, I did not know it was for the keynote until I got on the phone to talk with the organizer. And we were talking about what it is what their organization was all about, what the conference was all about. I had some questions because again, this isn't my normal audience that I normally speak to when I show up online. So I wanted to be sure that it was going to be a good fit for them. Like I was going to be the right person to show up for their conference, but also that it would be a good fit for me. And so I honestly, I questioned it at first and I thought, is that straying from my core audience? Is it straying from my core message? And that's what I was most concerned about. But what I did is I took a step back and I talked with my husband. He's also in the branding industry. And so we all need a sounding board, right? I have a sounding board that understands branding and messaging, which I probably rely on him more than he sometimes would like, but that's just what happens. And he said to me, but Carrie, what are you really all about? Yes, you want to help people make their message roar. Yes, you're focusing with online service-based business owners. But what's your mission? What's your purpose? This is an opportunity for you to go speak about the thing you're most passionate about. And that's the power of messaging, the power of your words to move people, to inspire people, and to allow people to achieve the goals that they're after. And I thought, you know what? You're right. Not my normal audience, but it really allows me to speak about really what I'm all about is about helping people find their voice, helping them find the words so that they can achieve their goals and their own mission, right? What better way to sort of branch out and speak to other people about that than to a group of nonprofits that are raising money to support our local school districts. And I also thought about that group specifically. I have a personal passion for education and for kids and for people who want to make that better. And so because of that, you know what, I was like, I'd be silly not to speak to this group, right? But if I was going to do it, I wanted to knock it out of the park for them. I was not going to show up with the same talk that I gave locally here last year and that I've given different times in different ways. But I was not going to give them the same talk because I know my message is mostly targeted to online service-based business owners. So one of the most important things about your message and how you position yourself and showing up to really speak to your audience is really understanding who the audience is. It's the first step in making your message roar, which is making your message relatable. And in order to do that, you really have to understand who it is you're talking to. So I had to go do a lot of work, really, to tailor this message, the same principal message. I was talking to them about how to make their message roar, but from the perspective of how to rally their communities to go fight, win for education, to donate more money, volunteer more time, and give more energy in support of the school systems and what the education foundations were doing. But that's a different market than you as a service-based business owner, right? So I had to kind of go back through my own messaging process, the same process that I teach my clients to do, to understand that audience. If I'm going to speak to a group of people, I want to know everything I can about them so that my message is as relatable as possible. And in order to do that, it has to talk about the things they care about using the language they understand, right? But here's the thing. I did not have to rework all of my content. I did not change how I talked about messaging. I still talked about it being important that you make your message relatable, then about making it one of a kind, then making it actionable, and finally making it reliable, and why all 4 of those steps are really important, but how it applies to them and their nonprofits and how it will change the way that they communicate with their communities, right? So I knew I had to put in the work. So I've asked the conference organizer, who can I talk to? Who can I interview to get a better understanding of who the audience is? Remember, there's 2 things. People are motivated by 2 things, right? Avoidance of pain pursuit of pleasure, enjoyment, outcome. What are their key struggles and how does that show up for them? Very specifically, I wanted to know, like, yeah, they'd like to raise more money. Yeah, they'd like more volunteers. But what are the day-to-day struggles and problems that they have and how that shows up for them? And what is it they really want? What do they want to be able to do? What's the thing that's driving them? And what are the things that they value? So that I could align that with what I value about messaging and tie that together, right? I also looked at all the topics that they had lined up for the other speakers. In addition to the keynote, I did a breakout session for them as well, like a workshop. And so in determining what that is, I said, you know what? I first want to see all the other topics you've got lined up because I want to find something that's going to be complementary, still messaging focused, but like what's going to help round out the conference experience for your attendees. Like when I show up and agree to be part of an event, I want it to be as good for those attendees as possible. And all of these kinds of things help to do that, right? What is it that your audience really needs to hear? I also got a sense for the feeling that they wanted. So I help my clients work on their own brand personality. Like this is the feeling, it's the tone and the attitude that you want people to have when they engage with you. Well, I wanted to know, like, what's the feeling and the tone of this conference and what they want. And when the organizer said to me, we want them to have, really powerful information that they can walk away and apply, but we want them to feel inspired, like wrap your arms around them. This was the closing keynote for their conference. I want them to feel wrapped up, encouraged, optimistic, inspired, and like send them out, like back to work, right? To do their thing. So I had taken in all this information and then I started to put in the work to customize my talk specifically for them. And the stories that I shared about making your message roar, about why I was excited to be there, it was important that I spent time really building connection with them from the stage. This is similar to you showing up and letting people get to know you. Show up authentically as you, sharing who you are and why anyone's going to feel connected to you so that they'll hear you when you have the expert things that you want to share with them, right? Yes, we are in business and we are reaching out to our ideal clients, but they want to connect to us as people. So I made sure there was plenty of time, both up front and woven all throughout my presentation, where they could just get to know me, my quirky self, about my husband and my cats, found out all the cat mamas in the room. Like they're just all the different ways that I could help them relate to me. And so I tailored the talk. Now, I'm going to be really honest with you guys. A week before 2 weeks ago, a week before my talk, I had a freak out panic day where I was like, oh my gosh, how do I know this is really going to resonate for them? What if I flop? What if they don't care or don't get it? I have all those same fears that I know you guys have when you are putting out content. You are worried if people are going to connect to you, right? I do it too. And so I even told my husband, he didn't tell me, by the way, until I got home that night. It was 4 hours away. I drove home. And when I got home, he's like, I didn't want to tell you, but I was so nervous for you. Not that you don't know your stuff. Not that you didn't put in the work, but still nervous, right? Like what happens if they didn't connect and it just didn't go over well? And I even told him, I said, I knew by slide 4 if I was good or not. Like I had some warm up stuff. Slides 4, 5, and 6 is where I dialed in to what they wanted. And I said, I'm willing to bet you want this. And everyone in the room was like, yes, we would love to be able to do that. I'm also willing to bet you want this and this. I knew by the time I got through slides 4, 5, and 6, I was good because I did the work to figure out what it is that they cared about. I could relate everything back to those 3 problems, the 3 main problems that they had. And the whole presentation was about how to do that by making your message roar. This is how you win over your audience. I could talk about messaging all day, every day to anybody who would listen to me. But had I walked into that room with my standard way of talking about that, with the same talk that maybe I gave last year, I mean, they said to me when they approached me, "We love the talk you gave last year. We'd love to have you give that talk as the keynote." I was like, okay, but not really. Like, it's not the same talk because I don't believe that's going to serve your audience the best. But because I did the work to figure out that audience and could relate my message in their words about the things they cared about, I had people coming up to me afterwards telling me they were ready to roar, that my topic was so relatable. They started using my own words back at me, right? That they took pictures of the slides and they couldn't wait to get back and talk to their boards about their board of directors, about how they could apply this. Some of them even said they would reach out to me and they'd want to know what my consulting fee is. Again, not my normal audience that I talk to and that I work with. But because the message was tailored to them and it was relatable and it was my one-of-a-kind framework, it was all around making your message roar, that stuck with them. They remembered it. They could take that away. They could then go and communicate that with their board of directors. I also had so many people come up to me and say, "This isn't how we're talking to our communities now." And I already can tell this is going to change the way that we show up and the way that we reach out to our community and get them involved. Just in understanding the concepts, they already could see how this was going to change their impact, their ability to fulfill their mission, their ability to raise more money for their school districts, get more volunteers, and get everybody on the same page and rallied behind their schools. I got to tell you, I walked away feeling really dang good about it, and have gotten such lovely feedback even since that. And by the way, if you're not feeling like you could show up and know exactly how to be relatable to an audience and start to make your message roar, you can get some of the tips that I shared with them. You can grab, I have a PDF freebie for you guys, that some of the tips that I shared in this presentation that had them walking away saying like, "Oh my gosh, this is going to change everything about how we show up in the way that we market ourselves." And you can go to carrieprice.com/4, the number 4 things. These are 4 things, just 4, that you can start doing right now. They're going to make a significant improvement in your message and the way that you show up for your audience. Okay? So you can go grab that, carrieprice.com/4 things. So I've been asking myself, actually all along, even when I was like having those freakouts, like what was I doing? Like, I know my audience that I speak to now, and I've done the work to know this audience, but like, what if it's not the right thing? Like, should I really have done this talk? Would I do it again? So my short answer is absolutely yes. But I will tell you there's some caveats that I've determined for myself will be the questions that I will ask myself to know if it's the right fit. I loved speaking to the Texas Education Foundation Network. I love their mission and their purpose. I've actually already been asked to come do some regional events for them around the state of Texas. And I'm like beyond honored to do that. Like I will serve this audience in any way that I can, because it's something that I believe in. So when looking at future opportunities to speak, we all have to ask ourselves, when given the opportunity to do anything, you have to make sure it's going to be the right balance of your time and energy that you're putting into it versus what you're getting out of it, right? I mean, if you're speaking because it's part of your business, you're in business, and everything that you do, you need to determine if there's going to be some sort of benefit from it. Now, that doesn't mean that every speaking opportunity that you have, you're going to get paid for, or that you might not see an immediate direct benefit. But ask yourself a few questions. I'm going to share with you the questions that I ask myself, that I'm going to continue to ask myself when looking at opportunities like this, to see if it helps you decide if it's worth it and if it's right. So first, if it were to a group of like really my dreamy target audience, online service-based business owners, ambitious, want to show up and be an expert, there'd be very few opportunities that given that I would say no to be honest. So let's talk about what happens when it's not like an immediate, like, of course, like those are my dream clients and it's my opportunity to show up. Here are the questions that I will continue to ask myself in evaluating those opportunities. Will it allow me to be positioned as a messaging expert? For you, the question is, will it allow me to be positioned as whatever I'm the expert in? The thing is, though, then you need to know what you're an expert in, right? If you're unclear, if you're unwavering, like this is what I want to be known for, this is what I want to show up for, these are the opportunities that I want to have, it's going to be harder to evaluate. It's honestly going to be harder for people to recognize you and know that you'd be good for their audience and invite you to speak to their audience, right? So get really clear on what it is that you want to be known for. So will it allow me to be positioned as a messaging expert? And so the two main things that I would look at there is the audience. Does this audience have a need or a problem that can be helped by better understanding how to improve their message? Now, honestly, any for-profit or nonprofit business could use help with messaging, right? Like messaging is a key fundamental aspect to your marketing, which shapes your brand, which is your reputation. Like everybody can benefit from that. So then I would ask myself, is this an audience that I can be like fired up and excited to talk to? Because when you're doing the work to get ready, because you guys, I spent hours to make sure that was the best keynote I could give this group of people. There are going to be days when you're like, oh, this is so much work. Or you're going to have those freakouts like, oh, I don't know if I'm really going to, they're going to relate to me. So you've got to have like a connection to that audience in some way. You might have to like figure out what that is, but make sure you can find the connection. Like, why are you excited to be in the room with that audience? Not just should they be excited to hear from you and learn from you. Like, I want to be excited to be in the room or virtually with the people that I'm talking to. Okay. So that's one key thing that I'll be evaluating. And yes, the topic. Now, does that mean I would never speak on something outside of my signature talks? No, I would start with that. Like, I would ask myself, do one of my signature topics, would it be beneficial? Would it apply to this group? If not, and I'm going to create something totally new, I still want it to be within my box, right? Within the realm of being a messaging coach. There's a lot of different angles I could talk on around that. But recognize that there are going to be people in that room that you don't know who they're connected to. And so when they remember you, because you're going to give a killer talk, when they remember you and they talk to you about somebody else, what do you want them to remember about you? What do you want them to pass along? Do you want them to say like, oh, Carrie came and talked to us about, I don't know, Facebook Lives. And so she's the Facebook Live person. We're going to ask her to come over here and talk about Facebook Lives. While I could do that, that's not what I want to be known for, right? So this all comes back to making sure you're really clear on your area of focus. So making sure I am passionate about my topic and the group I'm talking to. Those are going to be two really important things that I'll be evaluating for myself. And then, so this one, I'm going to tell you what it is. I'm going to put some caveats around it. But what is the financial opportunity in it for me? Like I said earlier, if you're speaking as part of your business, you need to look at it and evaluate it like you would any activity in your business. And I want to know what the potential financial opportunity is for me. Now, that could come in the form of speaker fees, like they pay me to come speak, right? It could come in the form of, it's a group of people I want to get exposure to, and I want some connections in the room. And remember I was sharing with you like how I even got to this opportunity. I looked for a lot of opportunities just to go and practice my talks. So maybe it's like the groundwork, that practice work that you need to do to get comfortable to command the speaker fees, to get those opportunities to show up in front of the audiences where you want to show up, right? Your first talk out of the gate's not going to be a keynote. You wouldn't be ready for that. You need to have all this practice. You need to get rock solid in your message. Know how to tailor it to your audience. Like, know what you're all about and start to be seen as the expert for that. These opportunities then come from that, right? I'll tell you sort of a side note. I was at Social Media Marketing World a few weeks ago, and I'll be sharing some more information about that in the coming weeks too. I shared some takeaways every night while I was there, but I didn't attend the session this year, but last year I attended the session. They had a whole session on the last day of if you'd like to get more information on how to be a speaker at Social Media Marketing World. And here's what they told the group last year. Again, I didn't go to it this year, but I hear the message was about the same. They are looking for people who show up as experts already for their communities. They're doing Facebook Lives. They're speaking at other conferences. They're being recommended and referred by their peers as an expert in that area. And it's by invitation to be a speaker. You don't submit, and request to be a speaker. I've done it both ways. I've been invited to speak, but I also do look for opportunities to speak, and I've submitted topics. That's how I ended up hosting a roundtable at last year's Texas Conference for Women, as I submitted speaker topics and they selected one of my topics. So, kind of look for what your opportunities are and where you are in your speaking career, if you want that to be a part of it, or how you want to use speaking in your business to make money. Now, you might not get immediate financial benefit out of that specific event. So every time that you have an opportunity to speak, and especially early on, you're gonna take those opportunities, then evaluate afterwards. Is that something I would do again? Would I speak to this group of people, be a part of that conference, or not? And those that teach you the or nots are just as important as the ones that teach you, help you fine tune your talk. So, you could get paid in money, you could get paid in exposure, you could get paid in connections, but look at what the benefit for you is there and balance that with where's your passion? What do you want to show up and talk about? Again, I could talk about messaging all day, every day. I actually have a bachelor's degree in child development, and I love teachers and what they do, and I love what the education foundations do. It was such an honor to be able to marry two things that are really important to me, things that I value, education and taking care of kids and messaging, and put them all together into that one speaking opportunity. Yeah, I would do that again in a heartbeat should they ask me to do that. So anyway, those are the key things that I wanted to share with you, some of the key lessons and takeaways that I had from having the opportunity to give that keynote. Just to summarize, make sure you're really clear on your message and what it is you want to be known for no matter how you show up. Start to develop some signature topics or signature talks, the key frameworks of things that you want to be able to talk about. Look for opportunities to share those, to practice, to hone that, fine tune it. You're not going to nail it the first time. You're not going to nail it the fifth time. You've got to do it over and over again to really get confident. Even once I customized this talk, and it was, pretty customized all throughout, then I practice that thing. I practiced. I knew the slide transitions. I knew how to lead from one slide to the next before seeing what the next slide was. You've got to really do the work and show up and be amazing for that audience so that they can have the best experience with you. But make sure you really understand the audience that you're talking to. That's probably the biggest lesson and takeaway. It was a no-brainer for me to do that. Obviously, this is what I talk about with messaging, that you have to have a message that's relatable. That means you need to understand the market that you're talking to and what it is they care about. But that was one of the pieces of feedback that I've gotten from both the organizer and attendees at the conference last week was they could tell how much time and effort and how much care I put into making sure that it wasn't just a generic topic, that it was applicable to the people in the room, that I understood the problems and struggles and needs that they had and tailored my content to them so that they could walk away and really apply that. And so many of them shared with me that it really was relatable to them, that I really did speak about the things that they cared about. And they started to change the way that they look at their own messaging because of it. You can have that too. Just a reminder, you can grab 4 of the tips that I shared with that audience in a PDF that I've got for you. Go to carrieprice.com/4things. And if you also, I've got some upcoming trainings. I've been between social media marketing world. I was at a mastermind a couple weeks ago, prepping for this keynote, but looking ahead at some of the trainings and things that I want to be doing for you guys, both here and inside my free group, The Messaging Den. You can go to themessagingden.com for that. I've got some new trainings coming up, and if you want to get notified when I'm going live and topics that I'm sharing or even posting pre-recorded videos, and you want to make sure that you don't miss out on the opportunity to catch any of those sessions, then you can sign up to get notified via Messenger bot. I do also email my list. If you grab that 4 things cheat sheet, you'll also end up on my list, and I can notify you there too. But you can go to carrieprice.com/notify me. I'm going to put all the links in the description up above. This, if you go to carrieprice.com/notify me, I send out via Messenger bot right to Facebook Messenger the topics that I'm talking about so that you can join me live if you want or catch the replay. So if you want to make sure you don't miss anything, because we all know that sometimes we don't see everybody's posts here on Facebook, make sure you sign up for that so that you can get notified. All right. If you have any questions about speaking, about developing signature topics, or you're unsure about how you'd even go about doing that, drop that in the comments for me too. Let me know what questions you have, and I'll see, I'd be happy to help you start to think through that. But I will tell you, it comes down to your message. It comes down to doing the work to really understand your audience, what they care about, how to speak to them, how to position them as the expert that you are, to be remembered, to be respected, to inspire them, to want to take action and learn more about working with you. So until next time, don't settle for sounding like anybody else. Make sure you stand out, you get heard, make your message roar. Have a great day. Bye for now.